So this morning we're talking about the lover archetype, which I'm super excited about because this is actually an archetype that I don't ever really dive into for like my own work. And I don't know why I was thinking about it. Like we did an archetype and shadow session at one of the retreats, and I remember us going through these archetypes and like talking about the lover, and I was just like, this is a ridiculous archetype. Um, but I think part of that is like holding some of those shadow elements too close to the surface and maybe being a little judgmental about that and those things in myself that I've seen in the past. So it's just very interesting to dive back into this archetype and go back through my notes from that session and see what came up this time. And I think that I found that I connect a lot more to this archetype now. So I'm excited to talk about it, talk about how we use this in our treatments, and how we use this in our business, which is like a core focus of this chat when I put everything together was how does this show up for us and our embodiment in real life related to our work? Because I think that a lot of us, um, unknowingly, we go into this industry because we want to help people and touch people and love on people. And so unknowingly, we use the lover archetype every single day. And it shows up in how we interact you know, with our clients, with the people that we work with our jobs. So I'm excited to talk about that. But to start off, I drew a card for us, and I chose this card this time on purpose from the Archetypes deck, The Wild Unknown, and I chose the Lover, obviously, because that's what we're talking about today. There we go, the Lover. So the Lover is one of the core archetypes in like new Jungian archetypes, if you're familiar with those, and if not, you can always look up Carl Jung and go into his work. Um, so it wasn't a core archetype, but it's one that shows up more with current theories and uses of Jungian archetypes, like in shadow work sessions and um, in Jungian psychology. Let me find what page the lover is on so I can give you the overview from this specific deck I love because the archetypal overviews are amazing. That was page 95. And she always has some sort of like extra information that's super helpful. Okay, so the lover is also known as the heart, the beloved, and the devoted. Pulsing through the heart of the lover is gratitude. The lover appreciates and experiences the world through the senses, reveling in beauty, song, art, music, sense, and sexuality and sensuality. This energy awakens at the tip of our tongue when we taste the sweetness of honey, kiss of a lover, or speak gentle words to a child. The lover lingers um, with the slow merging of self and the other. This energy is usually experienced for short periods of time, but in order to feel it, we must be fully present and awake with no expectations or rules about what should be. Rather, the lover is in awe of what the world presents, reveling in the glorious details, grateful to savor every last drop of life's offerings. The lover archetype is present everywhere, not just where conventional forms of pleasure and beauty are found. The lover's awe is unconditional. When you hold someone's gaze for several moments, you'll feel the lover within you awaken. It is common to seek the lover in another. The true gift is finding the lover in yourself. And when light, the lover shows connection, expansion, devotion, and awe. And when dark, or in the shadow, it's indulgence, attachment, and obsession. So that's what we're going to get into today is what are those light and dark aspects of the lover archetype? What parts of it do we want and what parts of it do we want to leave behind? So the lover is really the part of us that like craves deep connection with other people. And I think as touch workers, that is everything about what we do and why we do it. We crave deep connection with our clients. Um, and the lover also is the part of us that embraces pleasure and beauty and passion and considers them to be sacred experiences. So, for example, the act of self-care and receiving a facial. So, spending money on yourself, time on yourself to go receive a facial or receive body work. To us, that, or the lover, the archetype, the part of us that embraces the lover, right, is all about that experience as sacred. And every single part of it is meant to be this like beautiful, luxurious, sacred experience. The lover is also the part of us that's emotionally open, sensual, and expressive. So, at its essence, really, the lover archetype is about like inhabiting our bodies and savoring everything about life through our senses, savoring, the experience of feeling or touch, scent, smell, scent, same thing, the sounds around us, um, the way that things taste. Like, we just want everything to be like luxurious and beautiful, and that's what the lover is all about. The lover allows love to flow freely, and that's just not for others, but also for ourselves or the world at large, right? A lot of times that love and devotion manifests through ritual. So we devote time to creating rituals for ourselves. That could be like doing our skincare routine or doing some self-massage, or rituals and practices in relationship building. So, uh, you know, having time set aside specifically to build relationships with people, setting extra time for consultation so that you can talk to people a little bit more before you begin and end your services. And, part of that too, that ritual aspect is like having rituals that we perform before and after services for ourselves so that we can ground and separate ourselves from the person and also still give them everything that they need without taking too much on, right? The lover really loves, this is just going to be repetitive all day. I'm sorry. The lover loves beauty and aesthetic appearances and really appreciates all of that. So, finding the beauty in little things like fresh flowers or soft textures or pretty prints on your sheets when you're giving services. Like these are all things that the lover has a great appreciation for and going to show up more when that lover archetype is being embodied. Um, this archetype also really focuses on depth and passion. So, um, a lot of people who have a strong lover archetype like feel very passionate about what they do. They get very emotional during their services and the way that they connect with other people. And they don't see that as a weakness. That becomes part of the strength of them as a person, as a practitioner, as someone who's calling people into their business. Um, and it's something that if you feel really powerfully about embodying this lover archetype, that you should be sharing with others because when you share the way that you're emotionally connected and passionate about what you do, you draw in those same types of people. So the same types of people who will connect with you on that level, um, will only be drawn to if you're showing that part of yourself. So it's important not to let that sit within the shadow. Um, the lover really focuses on deep connections. So share how deeply you connect with people or how deeply you wish to connect with people and how deeply you connect with your work and everything that you're doing every day. Um, it really requires, though, that when you're, in that aspect of giving and receiving, that you're fully present. And so sometimes the lover can get like sidetracked by other things in life that are taking them out of their their happy space in the moment. The lover also, like, when you're truly embodying the lover, it gives you a good amount of like magnetism. People want to be around you. They are like truly attracted to you and your presence, not just aesthetically, but like your energy. And there's a lot of like confidence that comes through because a true embodied lover archetype is expressing self-love or um, feeling like genuine self-love and not just seeking external validation. So that's something I think that shows up in the shadow element, which we'll get a little more into in a minute. But that like not genuinely being happy with yourself, but seeking that love from other people. So that takes a lot of work, a lot of inner work, and a lot of like returning back to the same themes and embodiment and shadow work in order to truly like fully embody that confidence and self-love aspect. So let's get into, I want to talk about actually some like cultural interpretations of the lover because with archetypes, one thing to remember is that these are universal themes. They live in our subconscious, in our collective unconscious. And so sometimes, you know, they get pulled up to the surface without us really noticing it, and that energy kind of takes over. Happens a lot around this time of the year, being Valentine's Day, which for me is like not really a big deal. I'm not into Valentine's Day necessarily, but some people are. And so during this time of the year, like this lover archetype kind of takes over society, takes over everything, uh, takes over our purchases, right? Like right now, everything's covered in hearts and pink, and it's super cute, and I love it. But can't those things just be available the rest of the year? I don't know. It's interesting. But that's part of us embracing that lover archetype during this time is just kind of taking over everything. Um, and so anyways, we notice this archetype without having any information about it, because of the way that it's represented in culture. So, some examples that I have for you include Aphrodite or Venus. So, Aphrodite is going to be the Greek, Venus is Roman, same goddess technically. It's the goddess of love, beauty, and passion. And Venus's influence is really important as a part of this archetype, I think, because it shows up pretty prominently during the seasons that Venus is the ruler of. So Taurus season, Libra season, both of those signs are known for like their, Taurus is like that love of physical, beautiful things and luxury and all of that. And Libra is really about like relationships and a certain amount of like fairness within relationships and love of all things, right? So Venus is a powerful representation of the lover. Um, but in our own individual astrology charts, Venus shows how we express love and receive love. So that like where Venus lives in your chart then becomes very important in how your lover archetype is expressed. So that's also a very interesting thing to get into. But we're going to come back to Venus multiple times because uh, it's a really great way to bring in some aspects of the lover into your treatment by using Venus as an example in sound healing. Cupid is another example. So that's going to be like our male version of Venus and Aphrodite would be Eros or Cupid, which is the god of romantic love and attraction. Uh, for musicians and artists, I pulled a couple that I really identified with, but you can like go off on your own and find all sorts of musicians and artists that really embody the lover archetype. But the main one I found was Lana Del Rey, and it makes sense because she's Cancer. She's very like lovey, like sensual energy. And then the other one was Florence Welch, Florence and the Machine, which is like this ethereal, passionate expression of the lover. In literature and poetry, I have Romeo and Juliet, uh, Pride and Prejudice, Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy. So you have these like uh, representation of the lovers in a pair, right? Kind of working together. Um, I don't like to think of the lover archetype just in the aspect of relationships. I think that that really limits the power of the lover archetypes. So I try not to focus too much on that in this session, but it'll come up. Marilyn Monroe in film and television is like still considered an embodiment of like sensuality and passion and beauty and things like that. And then the other one I found really interesting was Ewan McGregor in Moulin Rouge. He's just like obsessed and like writes poetry and music and sings and things like that. He's just obsessed with Satine. So it was one of my favorite movies. I had to put that on there. Uh, for art and aesthetic icons, we have um, Venus, the emergence of divine beauty and love, which is uh, it's actually the picture I put in our little Notion guide for Venus, so you'll be able to see that. And then Rodin's The Kiss, which is a sculpture of like two people embracing. And then also Frida Kahlo's self-portraits, because those really show, you know, self-love embodied in an image. So I thought that was really cool. So just things to think about, right? We know who the lover is. We can think about this in terms of pop culture and um, probably even with people in your life, like people that embody the lover archetype will show up for you. So, in terms of business, this is where I think it's the most interesting, and we'll talk about like how to actually incorporate some of this in your treatments during the season. But I want to talk about this because I think that it's really where we should spend our energy. Okay, embodying the lover in a treatment is very easy. Embodying the lover in your business gets complicated. So when the lover shows up in your business, it can look like, someone being really free-spirited and passionate and emotional about what they do. Um, the people that you see that embody the lover fall in love really quickly. They romanticize things. And this can be the same with your work. Falling in love with what you do, like a new treatment, a new product, right? You romanticize this new product and how amazing it is, and a new service and how amazing it is. It's going to change everybody's lives. It's the best thing ever. Um, but it can also happen with people. So having a new client come in and just like romanticizing that relationship with your client, not in a when I say romanticize, it's not just like romantic relationships. It's like putting this relationship on a pedestal or thinking that it's something that it's not. Even romanticizing that client, which when you have a new person come in, you know this much about them. You don't know them that well. Actually used to see this a lot when I taught aesthetics in the beginning of school. So people would come in, they would make these new friendships. They just met each other, okay? Like you met 2 days ago, and all of a sudden they're best friends, can't be without each other. Um, and then something happens at some point where the relationship is tested and they're just like so blown away that this happened. And it's like, of course something happened that you didn't expect because you don't actually know this person. You romanticize this best friendship that you had with somebody. And it happens a lot with new clients as well. So the lover also is related to the feeler. And the feeler is an archetype that shows up in learning. So the feeler, when you're learning new information, always is going to begin by asking why and what's in it for me. And if you're learning something and you don't know the why and you don't know what's in it for you, then you tap out and you don't pay attention to what's happening. So this is why in a learning sense, when you're receiving information, you may not be actually focusing on the information because maybe you were never given the why before. Maybe that person just jumps right in and is like, let's go, let's do this. And you totally miss the point of like, why am I actually doing this? That would really frustrate you if the lover's showing up strong in your own personal archetypes. And it's good to know about yourself because then you can make sure to ask that question. This was me for a really long time. I was the feeler. And if I didn't get the why from someone, like, don't care, not listening. Like, you haven't proven to me why I should be paying attention to you. Um, and then over time, it became something where I self-satisfied the why. The why I am learning this is because I want to know. And so now I don't need to ask that question anymore. I already know why. I want to know it. I don't need it to be anything specific. I just want to know the information because I like to learn. So that can be a way around that, but just pay attention to if you're that person because it can be a really easy fix to just ask why or figure out why for yourself. And also as a teacher, if you're teaching information, like you should always give the why first because there's always going to be those people that need to know why, need to know what's in it for them. The lover in business is also a risk taker. They like to try new things and they like to be creative and they lead with emotion. So they're not always paying attention to, is this the most reasonable thing to do? Should I be making this purchase? Should I be investing in this? Should I bring in a whole new product line? Should I take this class that's very expensive? Like they don't always think through these steps. And the lover, as an owner of a business who employs other people, is um, often taking risks with bringing on new employees, giving incentives for things, adding in new services. Like hiring people to do things when they don't really have the funds to do that, redecorating their business when they don't have the funds to do that. So it can show up in these very interesting ways. They lead and learn with feelings, right? So everything happens from the feeling space. And these people also will show up as being very, they may describe themselves as empathic. So, oh, I feel what other people are feeling, or empathetic, where they're like actually experiencing other people's feelings, which can be really overwhelming and hard, especially if you're trying to do any sort of energy work. So, um, just think about these things. Do you notice that they're showing up for you? And and keep this in mind as we talk about what these embodiment practices look like. So, if you're embodying the lover in your business, this is the way it could potentially actually play out. Your space is really immaculately decorated. You spend a lot of time with like curating beautiful colors and textures and lighting. Uh, I put in the little Notion guide like it's giving maximalist vibes because a lot of times we like so many things and like fall in love with little things. And then we add all these little things into this space, and it's not a bad thing. This is me. Like this is where I started to look through and was like, oh, I definitely embody this archetype quite a bit in my business, is with this like it, this appreciation for the space that you're in looking beautiful, looking a certain way. So that if that's something that's like super important to you, you're probably got a little bit of the lover going on in there. Same thing with website marketing, social media. Do you curate a feed? Do you curate your pictures to look a certain way with a certain aesthetic? Do you have fun with it? Are you creative? Do you like doing those things? That could be a little bit of the lover showing up for you. Um, the linens are always soft and luxurious, and like I said, like you like pretty prints, flowers, things like that. But definitely a focus on like, is this soft? Is this texture going to be something that my client likes? Does my bed feel like a soft cloud? Like that's a lover archetype. You're spending a lot of time and attention on, does this feel, is the person going to feel good when they're there? Are they going to touch something that's soft, right? That's something that we really care about. Sometimes the lover is prone to choosing products and uh, products to bring in and retail and use in the treatments because they have pretty labels, pretty bottles. You want it to look a certain way on your shelf, have a certain aesthetic benefit. And they will specifically not use things that have ugly packaging. So this is me big time. Like, I do not like an ugly bottle. Okay. I'm just not, it kept me from using multiple lines for a long time. Glymed would not use Glymed with their old packaging. I just didn't like how it looked. And it has nothing to do with the product itself, right? That is an aesthetic thing. And it is what it is. This can be limiting, but it can also be great. Like you can find amazing things in pretty packages and really support what you want the image of your business to be. But along with that, it's not just the pretty label or the bottle, it's like the scent, the appearance, the texture, the overall sensory experience of product is super important to a lover archetype. So they want everything to be immaculate, smells beautiful, looks pretty when you pump it out of the bottle. The texture feels luxurious and amazing, and that really enhances that sensory experience. That's something that's very important to us, which makes for a beautiful experience for the client, right? Um, Sometimes the lover gets really invested in the emotional connection they have with um, brands and brand relationships and the emotional connection to the brand's ethos, for example. So that can be something that shows up a lot too. Uh, in addition, curated playlists, like you're curating every single part of the experience. You want the music to match the vibe. Um, Creative treatment names and protocols, because remember that the lover loves to be creative and try new things. So adding like fun names, constantly adding new services or changing up old ones. Those can be things that show up with this archetype. So in addition, like we have this emotional connection with clients, right? So we like to have deep, meaningful conversations with guests during services. getting into things that like normal people probably wouldn't talk about in the service, but we're like here talking about like trauma and just things that are beyond the surface of like what's the weather like and what do you do for a living? It's like meaningful stuff. And the lover loves to give little gifts and discounts. So the lover archetype can be like creating these little beautiful packages to leave for people after a service or with a special service, they get the special gift or, giving out discounts, which can be a negative at some point. Um, but it allows them to love on other people in a different way. So that can show up. Also, remember the lover doesn't always make the most sound financial decisions, so that can be part of that like discounting thing. And some of the shadow aspect of this is people pleasing. So it's not bad, but we have to be aware of it so that we can really control the way that it shows up in our lives. Um, and then I already talked about this, but just remember that the lover in practice, when they're learning, has to have emotional connections to what they're learning. And so it's always about like, how does this make me feel? How do I feel when I'm in this setting? It's very important to curate classroom environments that are like loving and caring and feel nurturing for them. How does everybody else feel in the learning environment? Because they're empathic, they're picking up how everyone else is doing. So it makes it really important to um when you're learning, make sure that you're researching what you're getting into and that the environment is going to be curated in a way that really works for you as the lover. Or you have to really think about like, does this matter in this exact moment? Can I get over this and just learn what I need to learn? So those are like mainly positive aspects, right? These are all things that when we put the right energy into them, can make for a really beautifully curated experience in the treatment room and call in the type of clients that we really want to focus on, those clients that love luxury and love beauty and love the aesthetic of your treatment room or love the aesthetic of all of the products that you use. And they want to have pretty products on their shelves too. So it's great that you chose the ones with the pretty bottles, right? Or the ones that smell really good because sensory experiences are so important to people actually engaging in their self-care. If you're going to give them a routine to use, but the sensory experience sucks, they're less likely to do it. That's just a fact. So it's not bad that we invest our time and energy into finding those things to use with our clients. Now, the challenges of the lover archetype and the way that this can really harm us or, show up in the shadow is when we're bored, we become very unmotivated. So we're motivated by excitement and feeling passionate about something. And if we're not feeling that in the moment, then we're just like unmotivated to do anything. And this shows up a lot. Like if you feel like you have a lot of the lover archetype in you, and one thing that you're really excited about is like social media and your website looking really pretty, when you're unmotivated, or when you're bored with your business, most of the time you're just not even putting any energy into that because you're not motivated to do it and it feels like it's a chore. So that can be something that shows up. Constant relationships or no relationships. So just on a personal level, like people who are like constantly jumping between people or just avoiding relationships altogether because they're scared, can be part of that shadow element. Also fearing commitment, and this does come up. Fearing commitment shows up in a business aspect because most of the time people with a really strong lover archetype are and who like have negative stuff going on in their workplace. I've seen this with quite a few people. So there's something negative going on in the workplace and they need to move on and like go into another business or, start to work for themselves. They fear the commitment of that change that comes with like finding a new person to attach yourself to or um committing to a lease or committing to actually starting this new business. Like that shows up a lot with people with the strong lover archetype. So they feel really trapped by commitment. They fear control, like being controlled by others. Oftentimes, the lover also overshares. So because they're like romanticizing relationships, they think they think they have a strong connection. But when you're not really grounded in reality, then you're like sharing way too much with people, giving them personal information that they shouldn't have that begins to harm their view of you. So oversharing can be big. Like I said, romanticizing, making poor money decisions because we're leading with feeling. Another one that I think is really interesting is feeling jealous of other businesses or business owners. So, like in a personal relationship, the lover shows with a lot of jealousy, you know, in their romantic relationship. But in a business relationship, this is like, oh, I see so and so doing something um on social media, and so I should be doing that. Or, oh, so and so is making so much money. I wish that I could do that. Or, oh, they brought in that product line. Now I need to do that because you're like jealous or have FOMO for what other people are experiencing. And it can also make it can also make the lover, the person embodying that archetype seem really erratic or feel really erratic because their emotions can be kind of up and down. They make erratic decisions because they're leading by feeling and not by uh, logic. And the other thing that I found really interesting is the idea of like being almost addicted to that feeling of like chasing the high, which leads into the erraticism or the erratic behavior. Um, like the addiction to beauty and nice things and uh the addiction to basically the oxytocin that you feel when you see something beautiful or the dopamine that you get when you buy something beautiful. Like that leads into because we're chasing that feeling, it makes us look erratic. But the lover also can sometimes avoid making big decisions and become complacent because they're too scared to commit to a change. So, very interesting shadow elements that I think, in the beginning, like I was saying, when I looked at this archetype previously, this is all I saw. And I was like, that's not me. And the lover is wild. Like I don't ever want to be the lover. I don't want to show any lover in myself. Like I don't want to be that person. And that's fine to think that way, but it was showing up so strongly for me because that's part of a shadow of an archetype that already is within me that I had pushed down, right? So very interesting things that come up when you start to really explore that shadow element. But a lot of times the lover when they're talking about things that they don't like I don't like this, I don't like that, they describe these things as being dull, boring. So they're like, I don't want to dull, boring things. I don't want that. They don't like structure, so that's like too structured for me. I don't want to be locked into anything. I don't want to be forced to do anything. They don't like people who are overly analytical or that avoid risk, like, oh, they're just scared. Um, they don't like people who hide their feelings. They, when they're like talking negatively about people, it's like, oh, they don't have any original ideas. They just steal ideas from other people, or they have no imagination. So those are the things that they see as negatives in people, essentially. Um, and it can be the same with like looking negatively on people who are committed to something. So, uh, as a business owner, I think a lot of times this shows up as describing employees, people who are employed. Oh, well, they're just like they're stuck working for someone else, and that sucks for them. And they're not as good because they work for someone, they don't own a business, they don't know what it's like. Yeah, maybe they don't want to, and that's okay. They don't have to be like us, right? That doesn't mean anything, but it shows up that way sometimes. So, the other ways that the shadow shows up, seeking validation through client or work relationships. So, when your lover is either you're like pushing it down or it hasn't been allowed to like come through or it's unbalanced, like maybe your lover is just like out of control. Um, then we seek validation through client and work relationships instead of seeking it within ourselves. Cling to relationships, people, and experiences out of fear of being alone or disliked. Um, I see these sometimes with like employee employer relationships where you're working for someone who is not a good person, treats you poorly, or the business is just not good, not in a good place. But it's like you've already sought validation through this relationship, so now you're like committed to that person because you're clinging to them in that experience. You're scared to do something different. Mistaking suffering for passion while romanticizing unhealthy dynamics. That aligns with that. So, like, oh, I hate my job, but I love what I do. I hate where I work, but I love what I do. Okay, that suffer like I'm suffering so that I can do this thing. That is not passion. Okay, that is forcing yourself to suffer because you've romanticized something about this experience. And in addition to that, overlooking red flags. So not paying attention to like the red flags that show up with your workplace or your work partners or with your clients because you're idealizing them. Um, Sometimes this is losing personal identity. So like we get into an experience with the client, we're connecting with them, and then we just completely stop acting like ourselves. Like we're just a new person in that experience so that we can connect with them in a way. And this happens with workplace associates as well. Like you become really friendly with them, and then all of a sudden you've like lost your personal identity. You're not yourself anymore. Um, in relationships, I always think about Parks and Rec, if any of you guys have watched that. There's like this whole storyline where Anne is acting like everybody that she dates. And so she like starts to date herself to like find out who she is instead of like taking on the personality of everybody that she's with. Like she was like dressing like a cowgirl or something because she was dating a guy that was like a cowboy. I don't know. But uh that's that's the same concept, just in a workplace setting. Um and it happens because we confuse professional relationships with deep connections. Like I was saying before, with like when I would teach students and they would, mistake these relationships they had with people at school with these like deep connections, and they would be like in such pain and despair when they would end. And that's pretty common. And in addition to this, if you're looking at the client relationship aspect, like you think that you have this deep connection with your client, you put them on a pedestal, you um idealize and romanticize the relationship, and then you find out that they went to see another esthetician or massage therapist. That results in feelings of like possessiveness or being envious or being resentful, right? Because that relationship has been threatened in your mind. Um, so just keep that in mind if that shows up for you. Uh, a lot of times, the lover, when it's unbalanced, will also like seek that excitement or feeling dopamine, oxytocin, like I was saying. And so they are constantly pursuing new exciting things. But when they do that, they avoid stability. So you're not creating stability in your life, in your business, because you're constantly chasing the new thing, constantly chasing that feeling of excitement. And the other thing on like the opposite end of this is like you're dreaming of doing all those things, but you never take action because you're scared of commitment. So there has to be like a middle ground, right? Where you like dreaming and longing of these things, think about them a little bit more logically, and then bring them in because you know that they're going to be a good fit for you and you're really excited about it. Um, and then the last thing that I put down that can show up in a workplace is like creating drama through impulsive emotional reactions. So, uh, kind of going back to my conversation about like students when they would like all of a sudden find out that their best friend wasn't really their best friend, it would create a lot of drama because they have these impulsive emotional reactions to the experience. So that can also take place even like with coworkers or with clients, like having an impulsive emotional reaction to something that happens during the treatment, some part of that interaction or experience, or once again, like they don't want to rebook or they go see someone else, like that can create an impulsive emotional reaction that causes some drama. So, uh, yeah, keep those things in mind. So the idea here by looking at these is to see, do you have any of these shadow elements coming up? Do you see these things in yourself? And by bringing awareness to that, we can make a shift, right? We can make a plan for, okay, I really need to look at how to balance this out. Like, I want to be this, you know, the good version essentially of the lover archetype, but I want to let go of some of these shadow things that are really bringing me down. And I think that that can be really important because it's going to allow you to build a stronger business, to actually build strong relationships with people. And the answer to most of this is going within and finding that self-love within yourself. So thinking about the thing, what do you like? What do you want to do? How can you give yourself love? And how can you embody this love, or if you want to bring more of it in a way that's just for you and like doesn't have to manifest through your business relationships. So, some of the embodiment practices, and these can be used for yourself or for others, if you want to like bring in this lover archetype, would be to infuse your daily life with things that are beautiful and heart-centered and um, really focused on like the beauty in every single little thing. Okay. So think about this also in terms of treatments, how this can be added in. So some sensory experiences you can add are choosing the luxurious fabrics, wear something soft, sleep on something soft, you know, buy the nice cotton sheets, buy the velvet. I'm saying this because this is my bed. Buy the velvet comforter, right? That's really soft and makes you feel like you're laying in a cloud when you go to bed. Wear soft things um, so that you have soft things to touch. Like really embrace the feel of luxury. Apply perfume or sacred oils with scents that have some sort of connection to the lover. So the lover is really about florals and then those like musky scents like vanilla or sandalwood. So jasmine is really good. Rose. I was trying to think of the other ones. Lavender to a certain extent. I don't think lavender is as like lovery. Blue tansy would be a good one. Amber was the other one I was trying to think of. So that could be, you know, you're engaging your feel, touch or your sense of touch, and then your sense of smell. And then with food, it's like eat really mindfully, taste every texture. Um, move with movement, like move really mindfully, feel every stretch, dance. Dance is a great representation of the lover archetype. Walk slowly and like enjoy every single sensory experience. Um, bring in the idea of like romanticizing things for everyday activities. Play music that makes you really excited all the time. Why not? Like, we can feel good when we do the dishes or do our laundry. That's something I need to remember when I'm doing something I hate to do, like laundry. Just put on some music. Light candles in your space, light incense, because you know, sometimes we think of candles as like a special thing. I'm gonna light candles in my treatment room for my clients, but do you light candles at home to make you feel good when you're eating dinner? Do you have candlelit dinners by yourself? Like these are things that you can do for you. Bringing in fresh flowers so that you have that like natural beauty in your space. Go for a walk outside and experience the natural beauty outside and really make time to enjoy those things without anything else that you have to do in life. Um, taking indulgent baths. Some people are really good at this, where they like love to take baths with bath salts and things like that, candles and whatnot. Um, I'm not as good at that. The self-care, like baths and skincare and stuff like that, is not always the easiest for me. So another thing to think about. And when you're using your skincare, really think about, do you like these things? Do you like how they smell? Do you like how they feel? Do you like the sensation of putting it on? Do you like the amount of steps that you're doing? Like enjoy what you're doing or it becomes a chore and you start to hate it. This is one that I have been focusing a lot on lately, and it's adornment. Adorn yourself with jewelry that makes you feel good, makes you feel radiant, makes you feel prettier, daintier, whatever you want to do. Um, a lot of times I avoid jewelry because it's like I'm going in to do a massage. What do I need jewelry for? But like a little necklace does make me feel pretty, so why not? Or like cute earrings, right? They're there are things that we can do to make ourselves feel better when we like look in the mirror or whatever, and that's totally fine. Why not? Love yourself once again. Um, if you want to enhance deep connections, share genuine compliments with others and yourself. Write down genuine compliments for yourself, put them on your mirror. Um, but also like compliment everybody about things that you actually like. Do you like their shoes? Do you like their hair? Do you love um things that they've said to you? Like really share genuine compliments with people and have meaningful conversations with people with full presence. So to me, this really has a lot to do with grounding yourself and like making sure that you're present before you interact with somebody. If you're not able to like have a grounding practice for yourself or regulate your nervous system before you end up in a conversation with a client, then it's likely that you're going to be dysregulated and not be able to fully connect, not be able to be fully present. You're going to be thinking about, am I hungry? Oh, I should have eaten this morning. I should have done this morning. I should have done that this morning. Like you got to let all that go before you start. Otherwise, you can't really engage in a meaningful way. And, these practices also include like having a breathing practice that's good for heart opening. So, like focusing on heart opening breathing sequences, um, focusing on like really visualizing, inhaling love and gratitude, and exhaling the things that you don't want to hold on to anymore. So, this is really geared towards the self, but it applies in a treatment, right? We can start people out with heart opening breath, with heart opening crystals, with heart chakra sequences, with um, frequencies of Venus in terms of like tuning forks and things like that. So you can incorporate all of this. I have a couple rituals, and the rituals that I put together are actually um, one part of it is for you before and after each session, something that you do for yourself. And then the other one is in a treatment, beginning to end. What are some ways that you can incorporate this archetype with your clients? So this could be something that you do like for this season being Valentine's Day. I know it's very close to Valentine's Day at this point, so it's hard to kind of change things up, but it's nice on the day to do something special, or like the day before and day after to do something special for clients that really like show them that you care about them. And you don't even have to advertise it, just include it, right? It doesn't have to be a big thing where you're like supporting Valentine's Day, which is something I'm kind of against, which is why I don't do like love themed treatments. I'm not a big Valentine's Day person, so it's not for me. But I like heart opening treatments, and so this is something I could do all the time for everybody. Or during a season that's ruled by Venus. So when we get into like Taurus season, Libra season, really incorporating some of these elements because they are representations of that lover archetype. Or when the moon is in Venus, or yeah, when the moon is in Venus. So think, or moon is in Taurus or Libra. That's what I'm trying to think of. Um, those are times to incorporate some of these things as well. So but I think the lover's preparation ritual and closing ritual for yourself are things to use every day. So when you start, the things that you'll need are like a candle, and you can choose colors that represent the lover. So the lover can be like pink, white, red, those deep purples, even brown to a certain extent can be a lover color. This is all in the Notion guide, so when you guys open this, you'll see like what the different colors are and what they represent. And then you'll also want, so I use spell candles for this. I don't think I have one up here to show you, but they're like the little chime candles. You can buy like a ton of them for cheap. I use them with clients in treatments, but I also use them for rituals at home. So just get a little candle for yourself, light this before you start your day. Um, Grab like a floral or heart opening essential oil, or even like a toning mist, something that you can spray on yourself, or a room spray that has like rose or jasmine or geranium. Um, a bowl of warm water with rose petals or a floral mist. Uh, that's something you'll need for this. You don't have to be super complicated with it, but it's a really cute idea. Um, and then a moment of stillness. So you light your candle, take your deep breaths. Imagine, if you like to imagine lights, like light expanding from your heart to fill up your treatment space. Um, anoint yourself with oil or a mist and use an affirmation. So the one in the guide is I offer this session with love, presence, and devotion. Or, some sort of I offer my client love. I hope that everything they need comes to them, right? Just an affirmation as you're releasing things that you're holding on to and like really taking in what you want for someone else. So the rose water or mist is for you to cleanse your hands. So this is a really nice way to like cleanse away and imagine everything, all of your distractions leaving and infusing your hands with love. So it could be as simple as like washing your hands, with regular rose scented soap. How about that? Washing your hands or washing your hands with your regular soap and then spraying them with some rose water. Just saying, while you do this, like I cleanse away everything that my client doesn't need and I bring in all the love and loving touch that they need in this treatment. And then before beginning, starting by actually placing your hand on their heart and sending love to them, setting an intention for them during the treatment, and asking them to take a nice deep breath with you. You breathe as well, breathing in all the love and sending out everything that you don't need. And then afterwards, after they leave, you want to cleanse the room. So, sweep your hands down your body, use shaking, whatever you want to do. Um, if you need to let something go, like let's say you felt like something really icky during the treatment because they were releasing and it kind of attached to you, shake that away, cleanse it. Or if you feel really, really good after what just happened, just like express gratitude for yourself and what you were able to experience. And then the next part I really love, have a cup of tea. You did the thing, treat yourself. Have a nice little cup of some sort of love-centered tea. So rose, hibiscus, chamomile, and maybe reflect on how that session went. And then take some long breaths into yourself, imagining that you're giving yourself the same love, and prep again for the next service, right? So having this opening and closing, I think really sandwiches your treatment with love and brings the love back to you as well, so that it's not just something that you're giving away. Um, you need to receive too, but in a way that's intentional and not just like I was saying, where you're like seeking validation from others and all of that. Like I think this can really give you some internal validation, thanking yourself for everything that you did and breathing in and like focusing on you so that you're not just always taking and giving to other people. So that's the beginning and end. And then for your treatment, really focusing on the vibe, okay? Soft lighting. Candles are great. Pink or red glow in the room if you have lights that can change colors, for example. My room is almost always pink or purple. I change it up sometime for the seasons, but I love that glow is like perfect vibes for a facial for me. I don't really like when the room is lit up. So, in the case that the room is lit up, I still try to have those glowing lights or like candles going so that you have some of that like romantic vibe essentially. For sound healing, you can use 432 hertz. You can use 528, which is going to be more like heart chakra focused. You can use Venus, planetary tuning forks. Gentle drumming can be good for activating heart energy in a treatment, but you want to be really careful with how aggressive you're being. Like it should really be something that's gentle. If you want to use color therapy, then using like your deep reds, your pinks, golds, you can use that like with your linens, like having pink linens, which for me is like all I use lately. Everything is pink in my room. So we have pink linens, we have pink wall in my room now. Um, and then it could be with your crystals. So rose quartz is great, heart, like a heart opening stone. Anything that is for the heart chakra, like I was gonna say like mossy agate, um, rhodonite, rhodochrosite, I think is the other one. Uh, Unikite is the one that I really love. It's like green, but it has some pink in it. So those are all really, really good stones to use. Your aromatherapy, we already talked about a little bit, but like florally with some muskiness to it. So vanilla, sandalwood, jasmine, rose, amber, things like that. And then think about how you can create a sacred space. So do you want to put fresh flowers in the room? Do you want to place crystals around the table or in the room? And do you have a mirror available for them to look at themselves afterwards, because that's actually important to gaze into the mirror and see what you look like after treatment, especially that focuses on the face. Um, okay, so our opening ritual would be something like an anointment and an invitation to breathe. So it could be like a heart-centered breathing. It could be guiding them with some affirmations, and using your essential oil to anoint your hands and like let them smell. I like to sometimes put it on like the eye mask so that they have the scent stuck with them while I'm working down the body. And then maybe some sound activation if you're going to use tuning forks, and using that Venus tuning fork. And it's really great to put on that heart point here, around the heart chakra, around the sacral chakra as well, and even on the third eye to kind of like bring that energy into embodiment. That's the concept behind using planetary tuning forks, is to embody the energy of that planet and that planet's archetype, and Venus is the lover. So I also put in the guide some options for tarot decks if you want to do a card pull. I love to do a card pull before people get on the table. And so I usually set up like my crystals on the table. In this case, they'd be like rose quartz and all the things that I mentioned. And then I would have a deck for them to pull from that is kind of an embodiment of this archetype. So the Rose Oracle from Rebecca Campbell is a good one. Tarot of Mystical Moments. I thought I had it up here behind me, but I don't. Oh, I do. Tarot of Mystical Moments is this like interesting uh, like view of desire and emotion. It's not your regular tarot deck, and it's really pretty and cool. Maybe pull some of like subconscious lover archetype up and out. So that could be a good one. The Oracle is usually better if you don't have an understanding of tarot. Um, the Rose Oracle, from what I remember, has pretty like self-descriptive cards, so you could pull a card without having to do a lot of work afterwards. Um, Tarot of Mystical Moments, you're gonna have to know a little bit about tarot or be able to pull the book out and read that with them, which is what I generally end up doing. I mean, I did that even at the beginning here. And then this archetype deck is actually the last one I recommended, and this is the Wild Unknown archetype. So um it may not coincide directly with the lover, but you could always, give them the lover card like we did today and ask them to think about what this means for them. There are some other cards in the deck too that correlate with the lover, so you could pull from any of those cards and have them maybe choose from that group. But examples would be like asking them to pull a card to embody the energy that we're receiving today, the energy that we're bringing in, to pull a card and reflect upon how that or what that card means to them, how it shows up in their life, or asking them to hold that card as an intention. Depending on the deck you pull from, you may change your verbiage with that. Um, and I usually I have a place where I'll like set it up in the room so that they can, think about it or whatever, take a picture of it, whatever you want to do with it. For your massage and facials, things to do include like using like a warm herb infused oil with any of the things that we talked about, modifying your strokes. Um, we talk about this a little bit in embodied touch, and I don't know how much of this ended up in the online course, but we really focused on it in the in-person classes that we did at the retreat, which is where we held the image of love and what love feels like in our minds, and then use that to inform our massage technique. So this is a practice that takes a little bit of time, and maybe you have to play with it in terms of like changing up your intention and seeing how that changes your flow. But it is a it is a great way to change the way you work if you can really drop your body into that feeling. So what does love feel like? It feels like a warm hug, a lot of resting touch, holding on, letting people breathe, making everything really slow, rhythmic, almost dancey as well. So what does love feel like to you? And what would it feel like if someone was touching you with love, and make your touch feel like that? Focus on like opening the heart, putting pressure on the sternum, opening up the chest. R a heart opening treatment would probably spend a lot of time on the chest and working all of these muscles all the way down into the sternum, kind of as far as you can go within the limits of your license, I would say, and like your comfort with your clients. I would try to go down as far as you can because it feels really good to pull on this tissue that connects to the sternum, rolling over the chest like we do in some of the massage classes, or doing like myofascial release on the chest would be great. Um, you can incorporate like some feathering strokes, some gentle effleurage. Um, and then head and scalp massage is really great because it's it feels so good, right? So we talk about like um really embracing the feeling of things and like how good it feels and pleasure and getting rid of tension, letting things melt away. Scalp is the best place to do that, in my opinion. With facials, you can also incorporate, I mean, with massage too, you could incorporate warm compresses that are soaked in some of the herbs we talked about. Rose, chamomile are good ideas. You can use your gua sha stones and like those light flowy motions and use rose quartz. It's a great stone for the heart chakra and for love. Um, really use products that smell good, feel good, are nourishing. So honey and cacao are great examples. Cacao is uh, a great flavor profile for love and it increases oxytocin. So cacao-based masks, even that smell can like bring in that feeling. And the honey mask that I use is cacao mask. It's like cacao and berries and a little bit of floral. So I think that that's like a perfect product for something like this. Smells good, feels good. And then use like toners and serums that are infused with some of these herbs. So rose hip, rose, jasmine, anything like that that you can find. I know Laurel makes quite a few products that fit within this category that would be great for like, more love infused herbs in the treatment. Um, And then as a closing, giving them an affirmation, asking them to, look in the mirror, even putting affirmations on the mirror for them so that when they do inevitably look in the mirror to see what their skin looks like, they can see that affirmation on the mirror. Offer them warm tea or cacao afterwards to kind of, reflect on their experience. So that sometimes takes a little bit of time, right? You add that into the end so that they can have that little bit of a sensory experience. Come back to the card, give them a gift at the end. Work it into your pricing so that it's not something that you're spending money on without thinking about how that's impacting your business. So like a little rose quartz or like, I love to make my own infused oils. And so why not just give them a little bottle of that oil to do some inhalation with themselves or use on their face? Um, and that can allow them to continue to utilize that lover archetype at home. In addition, you could give them, if you want to do a treatment really focused on this archetype, give them a card that at the end that says like, ways that you can embody this archetype, steps to embody it at home. Um, some questions. How do you feel physically in your body? It really bring in that like physical manifestation of the lover for them. In your Notion guide, you will also find different names and descriptions for this type of treatment. So for those of you guys who are always looking for like, what's the protocol and like, how do we describe this? I already put that together for you. And I think it just gives you good ideas, which please use because they all, um, when I was like brainstorming them and like, you know, asking Chat GPT for advice, which we're going to talk about in a couple weeks on like ways to incorporate these things in treatments. Uh, the list that we came up with, me and ChatGPT together, really good. So, uh, check those out. And that's kind of it for today. So I know this was a long talk, but I had a lot to say about this archetype. And I hope that it is helpful for you in some way to at least like reflect on yourself and your business and your work relationship or, even personal relationships. Of course, you can relate all this to that. But also to think about like adding in some of these things to your treatments, how can you make every treatment more lovery? Um, that's more of how I thought about it. Like, not necessarily a treatment that's special for this time of year, but like every treatment an embodiment of the lover archetype, because that's how I want people to feel when they come see me. I want them to feel loved, to feel like an appreciation for how they felt in their body and how they look afterwards or whatever. Um, to have an appreciation for their nervous system and like feel thankful that they can be more embodied and like feel their body a little bit more afterwards, right? So, plus, I'm all about like the things we talked about in the beginning, the texture and the prettiness of the space. And like when you come in, you feel like you're getting a warm hug from like everything around you. Just want everything to feel like a warm hug. Um, so how does that impact everything that you do on the daily basis? But sometimes we embody archetypes more than others. So uh, I think for me, this is one I've been embodying a bit more over the last year without really realizing it. So it was really good to come back to see um, the shift that I have made from previously being like, ugh, the lover, no, don't like it, to, oh, I actually enjoy this and I like being this person. So